The following podcast contains spoilers and adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
Hiya, Georgie. What a nice boat. Do you want it back?
Yes, please.
You look like a nice boy. Do you want a balloon too, Georgie?
I'm not supposed to take stuff from strangers.
Oh, well, I'm Pennywise the dancing clown. Now we aren't strangers, are we?
I should get going now.
Without your boat? Here. Take it.
Welcome to another episode of the Showdown Podcast. I am Corey, and sitting to my right is Brad Scott. Brad, how are you this fine evening?
I'm good. Let that piano instrumental run for a while there, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, a little bit. Yeah, this is a very special episode of the Showdown. We are without Vic, which does not mean that he's no longer with us. Well, I don't know. Maybe he is no longer with us. We don't know. We haven't talked to him in a few days.
He's in Delaware.
Yeah, he's still in White-ass Delaware. This episode is nothing but the It remake spoiler episode.
It's not a remake.
Okay. You know what I think everybody...
Readaptation.
Readaptation. How's that sound?
Sounds better.
So, Brad and I, this past weekend, Thursday night, opening night, we went and saw It. Stephen King's It. I guess you just call it It. It's kind of weird just to call a movie It.
Stephen King's It, if you feel more comfortable.
But then there might be the confusion with the miniseries, too. So, anyway, the new movie that...
Andy Muschietti's Stephen King's It.
There we go. It's the movie everybody's talking about this weekend. And everybody seems to have gone to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How much did that end up making? Do you know offhand?
The last thing I saw was 123 million.
You saw 123. The last one I saw was 121. But before we get into it, we do want to let you know we are going to spoil the shit out of this. There's going to be all sorts of spoilers in here. So if you haven't seen it, don't listen to us. Go see the movie. Come back. Listen to us. And then you'll have an idea.
You've had a while.
Yeah. You've had a whole week.
Like you're either a listener of this show who has a vague interest in seeing it, or you're somebody who's already seen it and is still needing to consume more content about the movie, and you stumbled across this because we're going to ride that wave of the first week.
Yeah, Vic didn't go with us. He doesn't really even know that we're recording.
He's in Delaware. We're in Indianapolis, by the
Yeah,
way. We should have mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
He said white ass Delaware, and we're in Indiana.
Yeah.
Yikes! That's not good self-awareness.
Yeah. So we did go see it. Like I said, I don't even think he realizes we're going to do this episode, so it's going to be a surprise to him too. He'll probably be like, "I went and saw it too. Why couldn't I be on the show?" Well,
He's doing an install.
yeah, because you're doing an install, Vic.
He's working.
Yeah.
Job, get rich quick scheme.
Yes. Stupid real life. Anyhow, before we get into it, we do want to let you know. Let's go ahead. We'll do our social media now and get that over with and out of the way.
Okay, well, I had a song ready for it, so I guess.
Do you have a song ready for it?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well,
it can be kind of put in there anywhere. Ready?
Yep, go for it. Wow.
Go ahead.
It's a very active.
You got 30 seconds.
Okay. You can find me on Twitter and Letterboxd at
You tried to take it, and I took away your opportunity. Find me at Brad Scott Comedy, at Brad Scott Comedy across the board. The Showdown Pod, now officially the Showdown Pod everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Give us a like. Somebody should. Also, check out WrestleMania podcast with myself and Brent Terhune, where we go back and look at the week in pro wrestling from a comedic standpoint.
You can also check out Brad and I's other show, the My Way Podcast, where we talk about just about anything. And that's on iTunes, and you can check that out. Also, as I was saying earlier, you can find me on Twitter and Letterboxd at NKOGonzo. Vic and I also do have another show called the Miller Times Podcast. God, this music.
Also, check out Vic at Black and Angry on video games and at MillerKing51
on Twitter.
On Twitter and Instagram. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, that is.
Cut that music now. Thank you.
That's the dancing music. We'll get to later.
Yeah, that is so. That's just creepy in itself, I think.
Okay, so before we talk about the actual movie, we mentioned $123 million. This movie was projected as early as mid last week to make around 65 to 70.
They severely misjudged that.
Well, I think what happened is it is a week where not really a lot of movies were out that people would want to flock to. It's not like it went up against Wonder Woman.
True.
But to be honest, I mean, like, it's not one-sided with this. Wonder Woman, Justice League, they didn't want to really compete with this either.
Did you? Oh, yeah, you were.
Because it was already, if it's already projected to be the biggest September opening of all time, like, that's not a movie you want to, especially the first day they put a trailer out, it broke the record for YouTube. I mean, this movie shows the power of nostalgia, and it shows the power of the miniseries. I mean, the miniseries deserves a lot of credit for the success of this movie. Because a lot of people, I would never have, like, I read the book when I was in, like, I think 5th or 6th grade, around there.
Yeah.
But I wasn't, like, old enough to really retain everything. But I remember it just being, like, a horrifying book. And the miniseries, though, was what, like, got me to be like, this is one of my favorite horror stories of all time. Mm-hmm. Because when you saw that visual, and then to me, this movie rode off a lot of that success. Mm-hmm. And the fact that there weren't other movies coming out right now. September's a slow month anyways. I mean, the previous record holder was Hotel Transylvania 2.
That's not much competition.
It's a slower time for movies. The box office big budget summer movies have just ended, and you haven't gotten to the Star Wars holiday movies, stuff like that yet.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a downtime, which to me, though, also speaks of how much people wanted to see this movie.
I think a lot of people wanted to watch this movie based on the miniseries. I think I have trouble believing that a lot of these people have seen the original miniseries, since they originally watched it. I think when they saw it, they thought it was creepy enough and scary enough, and they swore off clowns and whatnot just because of Tim Curry's the way he portrayed Pennywise. And when I think if it was somebody else that was portraying Pennywise in the miniseries, they probably would. Obviously, it's tough for me to say this, but I don't think anybody would have even come close, and it would have just been another one of those mediocre Stephen King movies where. No,
he did a great job, but he was handcuffed. The entire miniseries was handcuffed.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't a theatrical release. It wasn't like The Shining or Pet Sematary where he was able to be on the big screen. So they had a lot more constraints than this movie did.
And again, I think I think a lot of people retained that knowledge from the original, thinking, "Oh yeah, I've got to see this remake." This, because the original, was creepy enough. But I think if they watched it back now, as we talked about when we reviewed it last week.
Oh yeah, that's something else we'll be talking about in our Horror Hound special episode. Is that score has changed? Guess who's going into the Hall of Fame by a long shot?
Yeah. Anyway, I think people think that it still holds high regards in those people's minds, but they haven't watched it lately, and they're like, I think they would change their minds. But having said that, I think with this new one, you know, a lot of people were like, how is Bill Skarsgård gonna do compared to Tim Curry? And he just knocked that shit out of the park.
Yes, and again, it's also a case of he had a much darker plot and a much more menacing character to portray than Tim Curry did.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a much better performance of the character. I don't think that can be argued.
Right.
Because it's more menacing, whereas Tim Curry looked and came across like a guy in a clown suit, you know, who's evil.
Yeah.
He comes across as something evil, you know, in a clown suit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he
doesn't look like as much of a person in this readaptation.
Yeah.
Skarsgård looks like a monster. Curry looked like a creepy guy in a clown suit.
Yeah.
Which, again, that's part of the constraints they had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had to tone everything down. And that's what I think you get out of this movie is you realize that the miniseries is a very toned down version of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was arguing with The Sparrow, who some of our regular listeners through the Brad Scott Potomatic cinematic universe may know of.
You mean from your other show, WrestleMania?
And I think we've talked about him on the Showdown. He was arguing that it's the exact same movie, or it's the same movie. You know, it's the same thing as the miniseries, which it's not.
No.
I mean, I don't know how. I saw people online saying that. To me, it has to be people wanting attention, because factually, it makes no sense. Not only is the entire, like if you're going by the absolute basic premise of clown terrorizes children, yes, it's the same story.
Mm-hmm.
But when you actually look at how that plot unfolds, how that story unfolds, it's so different than what the miniseries was. There's the house on Neibolt Street, which was very popular in the book, a very big part of the book, was not featured. It was briefly featured in the miniseries.
Was it?
It's the mummy thing, where the mummy comes down the stairs. When Stan goes into there to look, Stan hears the bird or whatever, the voice or whatever, when he's bird watching, and he goes into the house, and it comes down as a mummy with clown buttons coming through the jacket.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only real mention of that house. This movie has an entire scene basically dedicated to the horrors that go on in this house, and it's one of the best parts of the movies.
Yeah.
The way the ending shapes up, the way they defeat it. There was no battery acid, you slime, in this movie.
Was that in the book? The battery acid part of it?
I don't remember. Man, I started to reread this book again because, like, I have a bad memory anyways. So the fact that I read it when over 20-something years ago is not good.
I can't even remember last week.
So it was a completely different. If that's what you're thinking, if that's what's has been holding you back from seeing this movie or from appreciating this movie, you have to imagine it as a different movie. It's not the same as the miniseries.
Yeah.
There's no adults in this first chapter.
Well, technically there is.
I'm talking about as the kid. Kid, there's no
the adult versions.
There's no adult versions of the Losers Club.
Right.
It's just the Losers Club as kids.
Yeah.
I didn't get to Stand By Me. I think anytime you put kids in a movie that's R-rated, people immediately go, it's got a Stand By Me vibe.
Yeah.
I didn't get any of that. Granted, I've never seen Stand By Me.
The only reason I think they say that is because in Stand By Me, it's a group of 4 kids who go in search of a dead body, and it's their whole journey, much like in It, where it's a group of
It wasn't really about their journey, though. It was about them getting terrorized to the point where they felt they just had to fight back.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's a different... and then people were saying, well, we got a Stranger Things vibe. No, not really. Just because it was the 80s and because Finn Wolfhard is in there. Greatest name ever. Finn, it's his name, right? Finn Wolfhard?
Could be. I didn't look at it. But I'll say this. Yeah, as far as people trying to make comparisons.
Yeah, Finn Wolfhard, dude. How great. That's the greatest name in history. It's the greatest actor name. How is he not an action star? If that was an action,
like 10 or
I know, but if he was an adult action star, you would think that's a made up name. Wait, Finn Wolfhard?
He's like a straight to DVD action star.
Finn Wolfhard,
starring Finn Wolfhard
in The Despicables.
He's out for justice.
Finn Wolfhard is Finn Wolfhard, because we couldn't think of a tougher name than Finn Wolfhard. Finn Wolfhard 8.
He go to his house later on. He's got all these different posters. And it's all Finn Wolfhard 2, Finn Wolfhard 3. Just line the walls.
Now, I will say this. With the money the movie made, it part 2 is going to be massive and big. And here's the thing. They may just say, fuck the book altogether, and this may become a franchise. Like, I am so looking forward to It 6, Pennywise in the Ghetto.
No, what they do is...
Or It 9, Pennywise in Space.
They just have spin-off movies.
No, what do you want to bet? They'll do part 2, right?
Right.
And then at some point in time, there will be a Pennywise movie where it's like
the origins.
Like the ironworks explosion.
Yeah.
It'll just be it'll be kind of the instances of his backstory of murdering children leading up to see. I bet Georgie will be the last scene. Mm-hmm. I'm calling it now that movie will be made at some point.
Or they have,
and it will be called Pennywise.
Pennywise, yeah. Or they have somewhere in the second one. There's a Saint Bernard that gets featured a little, just in one scene, and he's nice and on all that, and that's your spinoff for a Cujo remake.
Oh no, yeah, he'll come into contact with Cujo.
Yeah,
he'll be the bat that bites Cujo.
Oh,
like
yeah.
The bat that bites Cujo is Pennywise spreading his evil throughout the King cinematic universe. Mm-hmm. He'll pop up in Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
And then he'll be that cat.
Yeah, it'll be. We're calling it right now. Big Stephen King franchise.
He's Kathy Bates from Misery. Is that who was in it?
Yeah.
He's Kathy Bates. He's a woman in that one. Why not? Really, Pennywise? You felt the need to blow him? Man, I was just trying to get into the evil character I was portraying.
Yeah.
No, but I'm calling it now. Pennywise 9. Pennywise in Space. Or It 9, Pennywise in Space. But I'm definitely saying for real that there will be a origin story called Pennywise that comes out at some point, and the very last scene is going to be him getting into the storm.
Right.
Like, that's what I kind of want to see. What's he doing before and after all these attacks?
It's starting to rain. I guess I better go ahead and just see if I can get anybody out there that happens to be playing in the rain.
No, I imagine him this is an updated version. Although I guess that was 88, so I guess I just kind of imagine him like just sitting there doing a crossword puzzle in the drain.
He's doing Sudoku.
Like he hears a kid down the street, and he's just like getting all ready and stuff, and then the kid goes the other way. He goes back to his crossword.
His ears perk up a little bit.
And then finally George comes. So okay, now it's time. Let's get into the movie. So Vic, tell us about it. Vic. Oh, Vic's not here.
Yeah, we forgot about that.
We're screwed.
Well, let's not go through scene by scene because, personally, I can't remember everything.
Well, let's just hit the highlights then.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Let's start out by saying, how many times did you see the movie?
Oh, why'd you have to do that to me? Put me on blast.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, god damn it. All right, so here's what happened. Here's the thing about me. I usually can't watch a movie more than once every 6 months. Like, every 6 months is usually about and a lot of times it goes longer than that. Mm-hmm. Like, I haven't watched the original Guardians of the Galaxy in probably a year and a half, and that was when I watched, no, probably longer than that, because it was when Molly and I believe it first started dating. I watched it with her, and then I got the Blu-ray, and I watched that one time right around Christmas, so it's been like 2.5 years, and I love that movie. Mm-hmm. Rocky has been one of the exceptions. I can kind of watch Rocky whenever, and I'm okay with it. Even Goodfellas, which is one of my all-time favorite movies, if I watch it front to end, I could watch it again, shorter than that, but there's a very few, selection of movies that I can do once more than every 6 months. Mm-hmm. So I went and watched this at 7 with you. Mm-hmm. You're welcome for that, by the way.
I did say thank you.
By the way, have you seen those commemorative tickets that we got?
Yeah.
On eBay are going from anywhere from 99 cents to $50.
Oh, really?
Everybody's got and everybody cracks me up. Number 233 of 500. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
I wouldn't be surprised because I got like 7. So here's what happened. They did not have them for our screening for whatever reason. They must have forgotten to bring them out. So Corey and I watched the movie. We talk about it for a little bit in the parking lot. And this is around, 9:30, 9:45?
Yeah.
Then we go our separate ways. Check this out. I go home, my car, I park my car, I go inside. My mom's been staying with me for a little while, helping my daughter and stuff. She's there, she's asleep. My daughter's asleep. And I was like, I looked on my app. I was like, there's that seat I love at Regal still available for the 10:30 show. So I go back.
Mm-hmm.
My car won't start.
Now to go
back to see this 10:30 show. It's like 10:15. I go out to start my car, doesn't start. Battery's dead. And not just from I didn't leave the light. I have automatic lights, so it's not that. It's just it's 103,000 miles, and I got the car when it was at 3 miles.
Right.
So the battery's dead. It ran its course. So I end up having to go back get my mom's keys. I take her car over there. I'm like, I'll deal with my car later.
Yeah.
So I go back over there. I watch the movie again. I go home. The AAA guy comes at 3 in the morning, which, by the way, I'm out there by myself at 3 in the morning waiting on this guy to wait. I ended up waiting 20 minutes outside by myself.
Surprised you just didn't wait in your apartment on the patio.
Well, this got me thinking, I probably should have done that. But,
in retrospect, that makes more
but
sense.
I just wanted to be ready to go, So I was out there and I'm by myself, and I just seen that movie twice, and I realized I was scared, but not of a demonic clown. It's because I live in a shitty apartment complex. It made me and the Sparrow were talking about this last night, actually. I keep seeing people say this movie wasn't scary. I'm like, well, you're an adult. What movie actually does scare you?
Yeah, this movie, for me...
No movie scares me. I'm 35. It doesn't scare me. I wasn't worried that a clown was going to, pop up.
Yeah.
Because in my neighborhood, if he is, he's just selling you weed.
Yeah, for me, it was just so intense, and yeah, it
was unnerving at times,
yeah,
and creepy, but scary.
Scary.
I have not been scared of a movie since I was a child,
yeah.
And I mean a child.
Yeah, it's hard to get to that level for me too.
So, anyways, I get the car fixed, and the next day, my daughter's at school, and so I ended up sleeping a little later than I usually do. I slept till 11:30. I'm usually up somewhere around 8. I got up, got her to school, and then I went back to sleep.
Yeah.
Got up around 11:30. Noticed there was 12:15 showing. Very busy still, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And at 12:15, but I still got the seat that I like.
Yeah.
So I went and watched it, and then I may have gone back Sunday with my daughter, who is 10.
So you've seen this now 4 times.
Yes. And the best part was, though, former executive producer of the show, Molly Smith, was giving me shit about this. When I figured it out, I saw the movie 3 times from 7:00 Thursday night until at the end of the last one, 12 or let's say 2:30 on Friday.
On Friday.
So basically a 17-hour span, and I spent 7 of those hours watching this movie.
And how many hours sleeping?
Probably about 5.
Okay, so there's 12 hours.
Yeah. So I like this movie.
Yeah.
And I saw something people were really complaining about was the CGI. Have you seen any of that? People complaining. That's the biggest complaint I've seen from it. And then have you seen the still photo of him biting Georgie's arm?
No.
Go check that out.
Okay, hold on.
Check that out. Yeah, because this is what pisses me off, though. When you look at it that way, it does not look like a good effect. But we're not. I don't know. Maybe I saw it 4 times. I'm pretty sure I know how it went. But I'm pretty sure they didn't pause the movie, right? When we were there?
No.
When he bites down, they don't pause that movie. The movie keeps going. And it's very quick.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right here, if that's the one you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah, that doesn't look great, but you only see that for less than a second.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. It looked fine when you saw it live, right?
It did.
I mean, was that something you immediately noticed?
No.
Oh, the CGI does not look good. Those people are getting on my nerves.
Yeah.
Like, for one, it was a small budget movie by comparison. $35 million is not a blockbuster.
No.
Like, you're not going to get Guardians of the Galaxy level CGI here.
No, I didn't have any problems with the CGI, and I think if people are saying that, I think they're just looking for stuff to nitpick at.
Yeah, because again, you know what to me was the more impressive part of that scene was the right before that when he opens his mouth and all the teeth come out.
Yeah,
that looked very real. I haven't seen people posting that still shot and challenging it, but yeah, it was probably a little more difficult on the budget they had to make him biting down on a child's arm look more gruesome and realistic to me. Again, then the following part that I'm guessing was CGI that I thought looked good was Georgie with half his arm gone.
Yeah,
I thought that looked pretty realistic.
I think if you're going to sit there and nitpick about the CGI for a 2 frames of a movie that go by so quick that you don't even notice, I think you need to divert that attention somewhere else.
Well, and people were saying it at other points too. They were talking about the projector scene, which I actually thought the projector scene looked really good when he comes out of the projector, all giant. I thought it looked great.
Oh my God! First of all, it was, and I thought this when it happened, and I read somebody else say this too in another review that it was almost 3D like.
Yeah,
and because I was like, holy shit, that looks good. Like, wow.
Yeah, and I think it's also some of these people want so badly to be like movie critics.
Yeah.
And it's just like, bro, you are not a real movie critic. Like, you should not be this critical of, like, this isn't Dark Tower, where apparently it was just easy to trash because they were like, oh, it was bad act, or it was not poorly acted maybe, but it was just bad script, bad dialogue, bad everything. There was not a whole lot that was bad about this movie.
No.
I'm not saying it's the greatest movie of all time. I'm not saying it's the greatest horror film of all time. For one, I think those are two subjective things that are impossible to determine. This isn't sports where we can look at statistics and numbers and facts to back it up.
Right.
I do know it's the most successful horror film of all time, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And it feels weird because when you see people trashing it and then people kind of fire back at them, the person that trashes it always goes with the argument of, well, hey, but this is just my opinion.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, but most of the time, not always, but most of the time you're conveying that opinion as in a way that the people that don't agree with you are inferior or dumb or are just like these sheep that are drooling because it's a big budget movie.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I was going in very critical, to be honest. I was super excited, but I was also going in secretly kind of critical because I was like, I don't know if this is going to be able to live up to the expectations and hype I have in my head. I'm very self-aware and realistic about that stuff.
Yeah.
I went into Superman and Batman super excited, which is one of the ways I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
That thing was a piece of shit.
Oh yeah.
And I hated it.
For sure. And that's what I've learned to do recently is to try not to get your expectations so high.
But I let mine go sky high for this.
Yeah.
This was the most excited I think I've ever been to watch a movie in a theater. But at the same time, the closer it got, the more I was nervous I was going to be let down, and I was going to be like, oh, then Sparrow's going to be right and everything. But across the board, in every way, it's been successful. I personally enjoyed it, and the reviews have been good. It's certified fresh, which is impressive for a horror movie. Although, to be honest, I thought about that more. As of late, the last few years, man, they've given some really bad horror movies good reviews.
What?
I'm speaking like Lights Out.
The Witch.
The Witch. It Comes at Night. What's not Lights Out was the blind guy one, right?
No, that's
that's the one with the horrible fake looking shadow creature.
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't even remember that movie. But
it's horrible.
The one you're thinking of with the blind guy is
Don't Breathe.
Don't Breathe.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, hi there.
Yeah, they want money.
So, I'm not editing that out, by the way. So let's talk a little bit about the movie.
Yeah, so my expectations were super high. I saw it 4 times, so it lived up to mine. What about your expectations?
Well, like I said, I try not to, when I go in to watch movies now, I try not to expect much out of it because there have been so many times where I've been let down. I'm not sure. I was a little excited for Anchorman 2. And going into, and so when I got in there, I was like, "Oh man, these jokes are just not hitting at all for me," and so I was let down. That's not really the last one that's happened. Batman versus Superman is another one too. So I try to keep my expectations a little lower, but overall I really loved it, and I ended up giving. Well, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But let's talk about the kids in this movie. I thought they did a great job. I thought they were really believable, and as opposed to the miniseries where it was hard to relate to two of them.
But that's also a different time period you're looking at.
It
That's
is.
where kids of the 50s as opposed to kids of the 80s, which is when I grew up and you entered into middle age.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I with these kids in the new one, I felt like you could relate a little bit more, and they acted like kids, especially of that time period.
I kept seeing a lot of people say that as well with their critiques was like, well, every other word was fuck. I'm like, have you ever been around kids that age?
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you right now, my daughter, she's allowed to curse as long as she doesn't do it inappropriately at school, at church, around my mom, around certain people. As long as she doesn't do it then, as long as she's careful then, she's allowed to curse. I've heard her and her friends. They say fuck every eighth word. And they're 9 and 10.
Wow.
Kids love to curse because most of the time parents are so strict on it. Mm-hmm. And it's something that they get in trouble for. So it's like a way of them feeling like more of an adult. Kids love to curse. When I was that age, because in the movie they're what, like 12, 13?
No, you know what? See, this is the thing that confused me a little bit at first, is because they're in high school. Because it showed the sign.
No,
of
but
high
it could have
school.
been one of those like.
But the bullies were driving, so they were.
No, but it could have been one of those high schools where it's like the middle and high school are kind of combined.
Ooh, possibly.
Because that's a thing. And in the 80s, I think it was even more of a thing where you'd sometimes even have like 8th grade into seniors. So they could have been 12, 13.
Okay.
Which would have made sense with the bikes and just. I don't know. I'm not good at judging kids' ages by looking at them. And that's sad because I have a daughter. So basically, if they don't look kind of like my daughter, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd guess 12, 13.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe. Yeah, that puts it about 8th grade. Maybe
Well, because Stan's about to have a bar mitzvah. Isn't that something you do when you're like 13?
I don't know. I'm not Jewish.
You know what? Talk about something
Okay,
while I
I'm
look
gonna
this
talk.
up.
So, but you were talking about with them cussing and the jokes that they were using. That's the type of stuff as a kid that age that we were doing as well too. Sorry to break to my parents if you're listening, but that's the way it was. And so I was able to relate to these kids as opposed to in the miniseries where I don't know. I think some of it had to do with, hey, that's just Jonathan Brandis and that's just Seth Green and Emily Perkins. So all these kids are kind of like newcomers, except for the one kid from Stranger Things, and so I think it was easy. It was more easy to relate to them and the things that they were going through. Now the bullies, on the other hand, wow, they took the bullies from the original miniseries and amped up the testosterone like by 1,000.
Yes, Finn Wolfhard is 15.
Okay.
So I'd say they're 12 to 15.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, they the bully. Yeah, this was definitely not the edgy Fonz that we got with the first Henry Bowers. This was a psychotic kid.
Oh yeah, he was generally messed up, and the way that his story portrayed in this one, how close is that to the book?
Man, you got to stop asking me that. I have not read the book since I was these kids' age.
Well, I didn't know how much you actually remembered. Just because I know with the miniseries, he ends up not dying, whereas opposed in this
No,
one,
he may not
does.
have died in this one. We never saw him die. We saw him fall down a bottomless or a 28-foot well or whatever.
He's dead.
How do you know?
Well,
okay, first of all, so Pennywise is like an entity that can create things or whatever. If he wants to use Henry Bowers, you don't think maybe he gets caught by a spider web?
okay.
Maybe it catches him down there, keeps him there, torments him, and that's when he goes crazy.
Okay.
Maybe in the part 2, that's one of the opening things is how did Henry Bowers survive that fall? They're all questioning how can he live. Like, they didn't show it because they didn't show him dead.
True.
And in a movie that's supernatural like this, I mean, if you don't see someone die, you can't expect them to be.
Yeah, I guess I should learn my lesson
Dead.
from several things.
Yeah, and because honestly, there was no other real bully character. I mean, the other two weren't really. You know, you knew the one was named Belch.
Yeah,
And then you knew the other one just slapped Ben's stomach a few times.
yeah. And I was surprised that there were 4 of them total, as opposed to the 3 from the miniseries. So that was.
Well, but this is not the miniseries.
No, I know. I'm just kind of making subtle comparisons.
I like that they killed off the Patrick Hofstadter character.
Yeah.
With the way that they did. I just wish they would. That's an instance where I wish they would have gotten a little more gruesome.
His.
It was off camera.
Yeah, but that whole scare thing through that was pretty creepy as well too. When he turns on the light thinking it's the kid standing there, and nope, it's
My daughter goes, "That's the girl from The Exorcist." Like there was a crossover.
Oh,
Like Steve Urkel when he parachuted into the Tanner's backyard.
right.
Like the girl from Linda Blair just popped up
Yeah.
in it.
That
was a cool scene. They handled the bullies, I thought, because here's the thing: as much as this was an R-rated movie, there's still probably some constraints. You know what I mean? As far as I imagine Warner Brothers had their own constraints. Obviously much looser than television,
right.
but still, it's not like. We didn't see any kids fucking.
No, there was no orgy.
If you're disappointed for that, you've got way more. Don't really want you listening to this podcast.
You've got more issues than liking this movie for the violence. But speaking of that, we'll go on that for a second too. Let's just jump around. We're not going to sit here and go in order or anything like that. But that ending, I just thought for me, I wasn't expecting the orgy scene. Obviously, didn't want it. But the fact that they all just kind of went off one by one on their own little. It's like, all right, well, we'll guess see you later. And it's like, I didn't understand why with the exception of Bev, I don't understand why the rest of them couldn't just sit there and hang out. Because they're still on the small town.
Dude,
yeah.
they've been there for a while. That's why they showed the little montage of them.
But it made it seem as if this is the last time they ever talked to each other. Just the way they all kind of.
Well, dude, they went through a pretty traumatizing thing, and most of them were having trouble remembering it. Remember, that's why she starts off by saying, "What I remember, I remember that it feeling like it was dead."
Yeah.
So it's.
The reason I was saying that is because, even with school coming back,
And they even said, "See you later." It wasn't like that, they weren't like Bev was moving, but Richie told Bill, "Hey, see you later." And
now obviously I could be wrong about it, but it just seemed to me like they were all. That was the last time they saw each other as kids.
Well, Mike doesn't go to school with them.
Right.
Remember, he's homeschooled.
Right.
So maybe he isn't going to see him for a while.
Did you like the way they handled that?
What?
With Mike being homeschooled as opposed
That's
to
fine.
being a new kid coming in.
So?
Well, because we had made mention when we reviewed the miniseries, you thought that there was half of them were all new at the end of the year, and now it's like, okay, we're going to make him homeschooled. We're going to bring in, what's his name? The one kid is the new kid. Ben. He is the new kid. Everybody else has kind of been there, but there's no really interaction between them. I thought that it was all set up was a lot more coherent than the miniseries.
Yeah, I was fine with that. That didn't bother me one bit. Yeah, I'm still lost on why you're so hung up on them.
I don't know.
Because again, they might have been sitting there talking for 3 hours. They had to get home.
Well, yeah, that might be right. I mean, it just seemed weird for
me.
And
what did you want? Like them to be have a campfire? And they had to end the movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. I don't know. I don't know.
And I did not once through the 4 screenings get an impression of that, because I thought about that after you said it. For the next times I watched it.
For the next 3 times.
And I was like, yeah, no, that doesn't feel like that at all. Like, it feels like they're just saying, see you later.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I guess just for me, because when I was that age, there was a big group of us that were friends, and we always hung out through the entire summer and then through the entire school year and then the summer again. So
okay, and how many times did you and those same friends battle an evil entity?
Well, there was that one summer where it was really questionable about things that were going on in the neighborhood, but other than that, there was.
If I wasn't worried about all the static that would come with touching this phone.
Mm-hmm.
Brum, 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 brum.
Anyhow,
Maybe I should give you a "You'll Float" too.
Yeah,
That's the bad one for this episode.
okay. There was something that we talked about in the miniseries, and I felt that the adults knew what was going on.
Hold on, before we get to that, I don't want to jump to that yet.
All right.
I still got stuff on the kids.
Okay,
I want to go through each of the kid, and you tell me whether you like the miniseries version better or this version.
Oh, I'll just tell you now. I like this version better.
No, I'm talking about one individually.
You don't have to.
There wasn't one kid from the old one.
No.
Okay, well, damn it.
I
thought I had a good thing going there. We could have at least gone
what
through
about
it.
you? What about you?
I don't know. And it's going to be weird now if I'm the only one going through it. That's why I wanted us both to do it.
I just didn't like I said, I couldn't relate to any of the child actors in the first one, and that kind of stuck with me throughout the whole thing. It's just and made it seem worse for me as a movie as a whole. But when I saw this, I thought these kids were so believable, and especially Finn. What's his name?
Finn Wolfhard.
Thank you. And I thought the jokes that he was cracking through the whole thing were
best
were
one
funny.
of the whole movie was Derry used to be a beaver trapping town. Still is, am I right, boys?
Yeah.
That's the best joke of the whole movie.
Yeah. I mean that type of stuff. The
There
jokes
is
were
one.
So much funnier.
There is one that I liked better in the miniseries than this one. Stan.
Okay.
I don't know if Stan was supposed to be gay in the new updated remake, but the kid that played Stan is gay.
You think so?
He's gay. Good for him. Nothing wrong with that. But he's gay.
I don't know.
He's gay or very effeminate.
Yeah.
Like the part that to me gave away his gayness was when they're about to go into Bev's house, and Richie's like, "Well, what do I do if her dad comes back?" Do what you always do. Start talking. Like that's where I was like, this kid's gonna have some internal deep battles if he hasn't already.
I didn't quite notice that, but I remember what you're talking about now.
Yeah, he's gay.
Yeah.
But I like the old Stan better. I thought the old Stan came across as more of like a, kind of an uptight Jewish kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if maybe they were playing it to be different this way or what. I mean, he was still great. Everybody in the movie I thought was great.
Yeah.
I'm not ballsy enough as an actor to start critiquing anyone's performance in that movie.
No. Did you think it was weird the first scene when this was towards the beginning when Georgie was going down to the basement? As he's walking through, his mom is just sitting on the piano in the dark.
Well, it's a nod back to the book and the miniseries. She's supposed to be playing some Beethoven song or something
in the dark.
I mean, she had like that,
I mean, I'm not saying one thing or another. I just thought it was kind of.
My mom
weird.
used to listen to music and read books in the dark during storms with like the windows open and stuff.
She used to read books in the dark.
Well, like she'd have like the windows open.
A flashlight.
I mean, not like dude. It wasn't like pitch dark. It was like storm dark, where you could still see.
Yeah.
And she may have had candles or some shit. I don't remember. Or maybe she had a little flashlight. But she would read books and listen to music when it would storm out, and she'd have the windows and stuff open.
Okay.
I don't think that's weird.
All right. Yeah, we talked afterwards, and I said there was really nothing that I could go on saying to knock it as far as.
Well, hang on. Let's not. You sound like you're wrapping up in a final review. We got more shit to talk about.
Okay.
We've just gotten through the kids.
All right.
I know you're probably looking at that little clock and being like, but we've just gotten through the kids. So let's talk about the stark differences you noticed between the miniseries and this version with the kids' encounters, because they were all different, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, Bev still had the blood, but the blood was way more different.
Oh, the
it wasn't
blood
just
was way.
It wasn't just this. Well, but apparently that I know for sure from seeing people talk about it. The novel is very that's more representative.
I thought that staying on that, I thought it was funny the music cue when they were cleaning it up.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was. I want to say it was The Cure that was.
It was The Cure.
Yeah, and it was just such an upbeat song, and like the beat to it was.
But I thought it actually kind of made made sense really. But if I don't know, I didn't think it was that bad because of how kind of dark the scene was.
Right.
It added that kind of levity to where you're just like, it makes you laugh at first because you're just like, really, this is the song, huh?
Yeah, because that's exactly what I did.
But they're cleaning up blood. So,
Yeah.
like, if you play dark, ominous music through that, I feel like
they're cleaning up blood that doesn't really exist there because the parents can't see it.
Yeah.
So they're basically cleaning up nothing.
No, actually, I'd argue they're cleaning up the more realistic thing. The parents also don't know that there's a clown eating children, but they do.
Yeah.
And that's really happening.
Yeah. So makes you wonder. Was the blood really there? And and as an extension of Pennywise, they can't see Pennywise, and they can't see the blood.
Well, yeah, that's
so it's
absolutely
really there.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Okay.
Literally, you just reframed what I just said.
I was making sure I understood that.
Okay,
Thank you.
but presenting it as your own idea.
Exactly.
So stealing my shit to my face in front of me.
Yeah. Just so you know, I will be doing your sets next week at Crackers.
It's this week, so you'll be late. So we had Ben meet him in the library.
Yeah.
By the way, I thought for sure the first couple of times that I saw that, he said, "Hey, fat boy." He says, "Hey, egg boy." At the very end of the headless mummy or headless whatever chasing him around,
Yeah.
and then it becomes Pennywise, he says, "Hey, egg boy." I thought for sure it was, "Hey, fat boy."
I think I heard Egg Boy.
Okay, well, that's what it is. That's why you heard it.
Yeah.
But I thought for sure it was Fat Boy.
Yeah.
And then I saw this thread on Facebook where people talk about it, and they were like, "No, it's Egg Boy." And then when I went with Harper, I paid attention, and it is Egg Boy.
Yeah. I thought that was another great scene.
And then Eddie they had the leper in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing: to me, the leper looked fake, but it looked gross.
Yeah.
And it's not supposed to be a real thing, anyways. It's a creation of Pennywise.
Right.
So I thought it fit because it looked really gross.
Yeah, I can't say it looked too fake. I mean, yeah.
Just in the fact of, like, the face was so still.
Yeah.
Like, there was no movements in the face.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still looked grotesque.
Yeah.
Now, the movements and everything looked great.
Mm-hmm.
When he's chasing him.
Right.
And I love whenever it's stuff like that in broad daylight. I think it's a lot scarier.
Yeah, because you can actually see it.
Well, and same thing with Mike seeing Pennywise in the bushes.
Yeah.
It's one of the creepiest scenes of the movie.
Yeah. He looks up and he's just gnawing on an arm.
And actually, I thought now this is, if I was going to do something different, this is how small and minuscule it is. I thought it would have been a little creepier if instead of him smiling and waving the hand, if he just would have been sitting there nibbling on it. Almost kind of perverse looking, like he's jerking off at the same time.
Do you think that was Georgie's arm?
Yeah, I've seen people argue about that too. I think it's just a random kid. He had a lot of kids down there floating.
Yeah.
It's probably what he does, It's like weed. He just goes down and gets a little pinch off, gets him a little something to get him by. So that was the Eddie experience. And then he sees him with the, if you lived here, you'd be home by now.
Right.
We all like, I thought, man, Skarsgård was great. But what did you think of? Because Richie didn't even have an experience until the house, right?
No, he saw Georgie when he went in. He had gone home.
Richie.
Oh no. Okay.
Played by Finn Wolfhard.
Sorry, I was thinking of
Bill. Yeah, Richie. Because remember, he even says at the one point, which is another great joke, where they're talking about all the experiences, and he's like, "Do you have to be a virgin to see this stuff?"
Yeah, that's true.
Is that why I'm not seeing this shit?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. He didn't see him
until
the house.
the house.
Yeah. Makes you wonder why.
Which was in the house. We got the nod to Tim Curry's Pennywise.
Yeah, saw that in there.
In the room full of clowns. That's a good scene.
Yeah, real good scene.
The whole house was a great scene.
Yeah,
that might have been my favorite part of the movie. Was that whole Nebo house thing?
Possibly, yeah.
Especially Eddie's interaction with him. When he gets out of that refrigerator, just the music that they play, which actually I think I got it right here. When he's getting out of the
fridge.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that's it, is it?
No, I think that might be.
Oh, this is where he.
That might be after in the garage, isn't it?
That's the leper scene.
Oh,
Yeah, man.
the music. Shit. Can we say enough about the music?
It did a really good job.
I mean, hell, we're sitting there listening to these clips right now, and I'm just like, yeah, that's the songs. I think the music itself really lent to the tension in the film. This is not the right song.
Here it is. Yeah, because this is when he's getting out of the fridge. The kids they put in the background of a lot of this music was the creepiest part.
Oh yeah.
And then this is when he starts walking towards them and stuff. That walk he does at first, where it's just kind of I don't know, almost showy in a way, was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to agree. I think the house segment was probably the best segment out of all of them. I mean, it's not to say that the other ones weren't good, but the
final battle, or like the whole final sewer thing, was good too.
Yeah.
That's where you got the dancing. Pennywise, the dancing. He dances in this one.
Yeah. Unlike in the miniseries, nope, nothing there.
And
but
that that was another thing people were complaining about the CGI with how they said how fake it looked in the background. But I don't know. I didn't think it was supposed to necessarily. I mean, it just was fire.
Yeah.
Again, and you see it for less than 5 seconds.
Again, you're nitpicking at stuff that it's like, come on.
This isn't like I don't know. I'm trying to think of like just another monster movie where the monster is like CGI the entire time.
Cloverfield.
Yeah, but Cloverfield you didn't see it very much.
Godzilla.
But that was well done. But there's been other variations of monster movies and stuff where almost the entire thing is CGI.
Yeah.
This they thought they used sparingly enough to where, yeah, if you pay close attention and if you go back and stop and still the movie, then you'll notice maybe some of it's not, the greatest.
Right.
But it's one of those things. Like it felt to me like people that were complaining about the CGI were like, their arguments and their evidence was always involved like a still shot of what they were complaining about with the CGI.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's like saying that the referees are so bad at their job. How did they not see this call that I obviously know is the correct call after seeing the 80th replay from the 50th angle slowed down to, a tenth of the speed?
Is that a shot at me?
No, it's just a shot at like every sports fan does that. How could he be so blind? Oh, well, I don't know. He saw it in real time as it happened from one vantage point. That's a lot different than the sky cam.
Yeah.
Like people are, human. And I did not think that the CGI was so atrocious that it took away from anything. There wasn't one scene where I was just like, that looks so fake. It takes me out of the movie.
Yeah.
Because like I said, though, it felt like they used it to kind of fill in the gaps of things that they possibly couldn't do. Like, and the fact that he's able to make his eyes do that weird shit.
Yeah. That was
impressive.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, some of the kids from the original movie are now adults. They're at the age that they could actually play another character.
If Jonathan Brandis pops up in part 2, I won't watch it.
I'd be amazed if he popped up in part 2.
Is he dead?
Since he's dead. So, there's that. But
we could do an all dead sequel. Jonathan Brandis. You could get Brittany
Ritter.
Murphy to play Bev.
John Ritter was in the miniseries.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have been the right age.
No, but you find a role for him in something else. But what I'm saying is, do you think there could have been any spots where they could have come back as different characters? Same actor, different character.
No.
You don't think so?
No. Why?
Oh, why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's better options.
Would you like to see them in part 2?
No.
No.
I want this to be completely different. I don't... Dude,
this is an homage.
Let them in. They did the homage. There's the Tim Curry clown in the room.
That's all they get?
That's perfectly fine.
All right.
I mean, I think they've done a good job of making it their own. Don't fall into that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need that. Maybe if they want to play a clerk or something that's fine,
saying.
But I don't care. Yeah. I wouldn't be like, oh, that's so cool that Tim Reed happened to be available. Like, I'd be fine with them not being in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm good either way as long as they're not like you don't have the dude that played the old Eddie come back to, to make the big save at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, I was so happy there wasn't a battery acid use slime in this movie.
Yeah, I couldn't see any kids in that time period calling somebody slime anyway.
Well, and they picked like this Eddie had a little bit more of an attitude than the Eddie from the first miniseries. The first miniseries Eddie kind of seemed like another, like, oh, this kid's gonna grow up to be gay.
Yeah.
And then the old adult Eddie, you were like, yep, he was gay.
Yeah.
But this Eddie was like, I don't know, like a more of a kid I would have wanted to hang out with when I was that age.
Yeah, he had a little bit more attitude than the original.
And you could tell he was smart.
Yeah.
Like he came across as smart, and I thought every kid was great. So let's talk about Skarsgård.
Skarsgård. Okay, I won't do that anymore.
They all float. We talked earlier about how this was a different role than what Tim Curry did, but it was very similar to what I thought of it. I felt first, but then I saw all over social media, so I was like, okay, it's just a common thought. It was the same thing as Ledger and Nicholson, as far as how they portrayed the characters. This was the dark, more adult version of the character, whereas Tim Curry's now, especially by comparison, looks a lot more cartoonish.
Right. Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think he was going to be, however he portrayed this character, he was going to come under a lot of criticism, one way or another.
I actually thought he did I have not seen one person really. I mean, I've seen people on like Facebook groups, but those aren't real people. I haven't seen one person that has anything to do with acting or film making in any sort criticize his performance.
No. But having said that, he came out and made this character his own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure, there might have been, deep down there might have been some influence from the Tim Curry version, but I think ultimately he made the character his own and tried to distance himself from the original, and it was spot on. I couldn't see, him do. It was perfect, and so much so. I'll say this: when we got done, Brad had mentioned that after we got done, we stood out in the parking lot for a while talking. And that was just to calm down, just to bring everything down, because I haven't been like that in a while after watching a movie where the adrenaline was just so high. It's like, I got to calm down. And it's like we would try and talk about it, but we're just like, the only thing that could come out was, man.
Well, it had a little bit of that Requiem for a Dream effect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where people, just there's a little bit of an unnerved feeling, an uneasy, like you don't feel right.
Right.
Watching it.
Yeah.
Or after you've watched it. Man, they have really, really thoroughly gone through and removed all these videos from the actual film.
Oh, yeah?
I wanted to play some clips, and I'm going to go to my history, and I'm willing to bet almost all of them have been taken down. Like, here we go. This is one I wanted to play for. This video. Warner, but man, they're on that. Oh, that one's down too. Yeah, this is crazy, man. This is people have been so obsessed with this movie that it's I feel like it's just justification, because we've been following this for years, for a couple years on this show. Not on this show. Well, yeah, on the Showdown.
Yeah, in a way.
I mean, because when we did it the first time, we talked about where they were at in the process. I'd like to go back and listen to that episode.
I'd rather not.
Well, but I just want to hear when we talked about, I think because at the end we talked about, the possible, at that point it was just a possible remake.
Right.
So from the instance that they've started with this, we've kind of given updates and talked about it. So it felt like a movie that was kind of close to the show. And then it did well. You know, it's like your hometown athlete.
Yeah. It's like we had a part in that. That was...
No, we had nothing to do with it.
No.
We're not that show, but we did follow it from the beginning. And so to see it pay off as well as it did, with as much as I liked the movie, made me happy.
Yeah.
Because I felt like, okay, good. This movie deserved, that kind of a opening.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything, you got anything else you want to mention about it?
No. I think we've done it all.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of scenes that we missed.
Oh, yeah.
But
we don't want to. I mean, well, yeah. I mean,
oh, don't say we don't want to give it. We've given so much away. We obviously didn't care about that. We've been talking for a while.
Yeah.
And running out of steam.
Yeah, we
have 2 more shows to do.
we can't really go. We don't want to really go into every single scene because that would take forever. Because this was a 2.5-hour movie, which is another thing too. Did you feel like it was 2.5 hours?
Not really. The 4th time, a little bit.
Yeah, for me,
hurry up and kill these motherfuckers.
Yeah, for me, it was like, man.
Oh, we also, I guess, didn't talk about his death and how, obviously we all knew there was going to be a part 2 anyways.
Right.
But, it really set up for that, and it was done in a different way. He didn't just get sprayed with something and float down the sewer. He got his head busted open.
Yeah, and then kind of flaked away.
It looked more like a death.
Yeah.
And the last thing he says was fear.
Yeah. So. Oh, I got a comment about the kid that was sitting next to me, whose popcorn I was going to throw into the next aisle, because through at least the first half of the movie, all I could hear was his hand.
Oh God, yeah,
buried into the bag, and then he's munching on it.
To be fair, though, the way he reacted, because he's the one that took the photo of us afterwards.
Yeah.
For our showdown account, he was just so into it. I don't think he was noticing. It wasn't like him trying to be rude.
No,
he would. So I felt I was annoyed during the movie as well. But afterwards, I was kind of like, all right, he was just super into the movie.
Yeah, because
that wasn't an intentional thing.
No, I don't think so. And then he actually got up to go to the bathroom during it. I'm like, dude, where are you going?
Dude, Sunday when I took Harper, there was a baby in there.
Come on.
Yeah, and it kept making noise, and I finally went out to like the thing because I could tell like Harper kept like looking over when it would, and I could tell she was getting a little distracted because she's like me, she's got problems paying attention. And I went out and told the guys like, "Hey guys, you got to throw the baby out. Tell a parent they can stay, but the baby's got to go."
Baby's got to.
I was like, "It will not stop." And the person then just took it into like, because they were on the opposite side of the theater from me. But then they just took it. We were sitting closer to the exit. They just took it down the exit hallway, but I could still fucking hear it.
Yeah.
And I was about to like walk over there and be like, "Hey, the baby's got to go.
Yeah.
This movie ain't for the baby.
You can stay, but the baby's got to go."
I spent $22 for 2 tickets, and then another $20-something for concession stands for me and my old enough child to behave and not say shit in public.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, that was yeah.
Overall, great movie. We may see this in our year-end review on a couple of lists.
It'll be my number 1. Barring Justice League being the greatest comic book movie in history.
But Thor's coming out too this year.
Yeah, that's not going to... All right.
And new Star Wars.
Yeah, those aren't going to come close to me. The only thing that has a chance is Justice League literally being the greatest comic book movie ever. And damn it, Court!
So with that, that's the end of the show. We want to thank you for listening. Be sure to check us out on all social media. If you got questions, comments,
at the Showdown Pod,
hit us up.
Let us know what you think of our reviews and tell us how dumb we are. And if you didn't like the movie especially, let us know why. And maybe we'll talk about it in a future Showdown episode. So for Corey Miller,
that's me.
I'm Brad Scott. Thanks for listening to the Showdown Podcast review of the movie It.